Hello everyone, today is 31st of May, now it's 10 past 10 in the morning Moscow time. I'm Levan Gudadze and this is first part of today's update in which I will share all the main news that are making headlines in Russian media outlets and Russian language pages on different internet platforms. Second part will be published on my Patreon page, and if you are interested, please consider to subscribe. Link is under this video in description box and in the pinned comment. That's being said, let's talk about news now. And because there was no reports about some crucial changes on the line of contact or any breakthroughs, I will skip a summary on the progress of special military operation during the previous 24 hours, and I will start with this report, breaking news for this morning, which is that airport in Kazan, capital of Tatarstan Autonomous Republic of the Russian Federation, and also airport in Nizhny were under restrictions this morning due to some aerial threats, and simultaneously, according to TASS news agency, in southern areas of Kazan and in some enterprises, people were evacuated because of this aerial threat. And we also have information that Russian air defense systems shut down at least one Ukrainian drone over their Tatarstan region. This is always known for this moment. Of course, if during the day there will be some additional information, I will share on my Telegram channel. Also, by the way, when it comes to this drone and missile attacks on Russia by Kyiv regime, we have this report from RIA Novosti, and all the other media outlets share the similar information that Russian air defense systems during the previous night and early hours of this morning shut down 29 drones and 5 missiles over the Krasnodar, Voronezh, Belgorod and Tambov regions. When it comes to missiles, many of you probably are interested what type of missiles were used by Kyiv regime. It was Neptune, according to Russian Defense Ministry. Kyiv regime used Neptune missiles, which is an anti-ship missile developed by Kyiv regime, by Ukraine's military-industrial complex. Although, by the way, of course, due to current situation when NATO member states, majority of them, basically openly calling for strikes deep inside Russian territory by long-range Western weapons, we can expect any day that Storm Shadows, Skal PGs or ATACMS missiles will be launched towards Russia, also towards deep inside Russian territory that is recognized internationally as in Russian borders. Although, of course, new regions, Crimea, Kherson, Zaporozhye, Donetsk and Lugansk People's Republics are also part of Russia, obviously. And yes, let's continue. Therefore, I would not be surprised at all if in tomorrow's update we will read information that some Skal PG missiles or Storm Shadow missiles were intercepted somewhere around Voronezh. It would not be surprising at all. RIA Novosti's report that there was explosions in Kiev, by the way, early hours this morning. No detailed information what exactly has happened. Possibly Russian armed forces conducted strike on some military and logistics infrastructure of the Kyiv regime, and same time, unfortunately, one of the Ukrainian drones managed to bypass Russian air defense systems, and in Krasnodar region, oil depot was targeted. There was explosion, fire, and there are several staff members of this depot was injured. And the latest information on this topic is that fire was extinguished in the area, and assessment is taking place on the level of damage that was done by this Ukrainian attack. RT's report, by the way, that, well, Biden secretly allowing Ukraine to launch long-range strikes on Russia, according to Politico. And as I already mentioned, last several days we see parade from leadership of European members of the NATO that one after another were stating that they are authorizing Kyiv regime to use Western long-range weapon systems to strike deep inside Russian territory. And now it's time for a big boss to show up, and that's what Washington did. Of course, Biden himself did not authorize nothing. He barely understands who he is. So whoever is in charge right now in US, they did authorize themselves basically and other NATO member states to start launching missiles, long-range missiles and drones and whatever they have in Ukraine to strike deep inside the Russian territory. Unsurprisingly, it all because if you remember, I said straight away, I noticed this change in propaganda of the West on the very first days, and I said that, well, this is new propaganda move from the collective West, and they're going to push this narrative now that Ukraine should be able to conduct strikes deep inside Russian territory. That's exactly what is happening, and we all know that formally Western ruling class will say it's Ukraine that's doing these strikes, but in reality it's NATO. It's NATO forces that are in charge of these long-range strikes. It's NATO military personnel that operates with these long-range weapon systems and prepares them for launches. And Russian high-ranking officials already stated this quite a number of times, including, by the way, President of Russian Federation, Vladimir Putin, who just recently, a few days ago, stated that Russia knows that it's a NATO military personnel that preparing these strikes. So once these launches will happen, once these Western-made long-range weapon systems will start targeting areas deep inside Russia, in central and southern Russia, of course, that will be next level of escalation from the Western ruling class, and I guess at that point, due to public pressure here in Russia. And also due to fact that Western ruling class is unable to take seriously Russian warnings, Moscow most likely will take action and will retaliate on assets of the NATO member states that are involved, that will be involved in these strikes. And Russia will retaliate on those assets, not just in Ukraine, but most likely elsewhere also. Question is with which force, but well, we will see. We will see. Most likely Russian retaliatory strike will be strong enough so that Western ruling class will at least start thinking about their actions. And by the way, TASS news agency's report that Pentagon confirmed information of Politico media outlet, US media outlet, that Washington has authorized Kyiv regime to launch strikes into Russia. And we have a statement from Maria Zakharova, official spokesperson of the Russian Foreign Ministry, and she stated basically that NATO will have to answer for strikes into the Russian territory with the Western weapons. Yet another warning, by the way, yet another warning from Moscow. But as I already mentioned, I know, you know, everybody knows that Western ruling class is just unable to listen to any warnings, and they will ignore them as they do already. And therefore I guess at this point it is inevitable that we will end up in the next level of escalation in fairly short time. It's days, maybe weeks, and most likely we will see that these long-range weapon systems from NATO will be launched towards Russia, and then we will see how Russia will react on that. TASS news agencies report that Minister of Defense of Germany, Pistorius, Boris Pistorius, made an announcement about yet another military aid package for the Kiev regime for 500 million euros. Okay, I mean, at this point, it's not even makes any sense to comment this kind of information. It's just, it is what it is, man. And by the way, we have this information here from also TASS news agency that NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg wants double the amount of money that will be allocated by NATO for military aid for the Kiev regime. So he wants current level of 20 billion to become 40 billion in a year. In a year, by the way. So yet again, I'm quite sure that there is enough issues in economies of the NATO member states that these hundreds of millions and tens of billions, even hundreds of billions of euros and dollars could be used to make life better for citizens of NATO member states, but Western ruling class don't care about their own citizens. All they care is their geopolitical agenda, and they just cannot stop. They just cannot stop. They know, by the way, they know that they are losing or even already lost dominance over the world, but they cannot face this reality, and that's why they are pushing and pushing and pushing towards more and more escalation with Russia. Probably they hope that once they will destroy Russia, they will take on China, destroy China, and then that's it. No one ever will challenge the dominance of the West, but once again, they already lost. They already lost this fight against the world, and I don't know how long it will take, but eventually Western ruling class will come to their senses, will be forced to come to their senses, and face the reality. Anyways, let's continue. RT is reporting that NATO's Eastern European air defense is at 5% of required capacity. This is based on information of Financial Times. Interesting, isn't it? While NATO member states are spending hundreds of billions on this proxy war against Russia, it turns out that air defense of the NATO itself is in quite bad condition. It did not exist, one may say, because I mean, only 5% of required capacity. That's quite something, isn't it? So NATO member states have just 5% of their air defense systems required to repel a significant attack in Eastern Europe, according to internal assessment by the military bloc. Okay, by the way, okay, it is what it is. I guess Western ruling class will use this information to further increase military spending. They will not decrease funds for to continue this proxy war against Russia. They will just use additional funds from budgets of the NATO member states to further enrich military industrial complex and order some air defense systems for Europe. That's what's going to happen, by the way, and no one will challenge them. No one will say, you know what, you are spending so much money on this most corrupt regime in the world, in Kiev. Why you not use that funds to buy air defense systems for the Europe? No, no one will say that. Anyways, man, Vzglyad newspapers report here that according to Reuters, France may deploy its troops into Ukraine in a fairly short time. Its instructors on the first stage, small number of French troops supposed to be deployed into Ukraine, and then this number will increase in become hundreds. Okay, Russia was quite clear on this topic. Any NATO military personnel in Ukraine will be a legit target, will be seen by Moscow as a legit target, and Russian forces probably will take action. Although, let's see what will happen. One thing is the statements, and the other is real action. We are constantly hearing some statements from here and there, and warnings and this and that. I mean, let's see what will happen on the ground. Also, RIA Novosti's report that, NATO general, by the way, was seen in Vladivostok, Far East Russian city. So, according to this news, military attaché of French embassy, General Jérôme Mallard, was in Vladivostok these days, and he was accompanied by diplomats from Germany and Switzerland, and also some diplomats from France, and they visited General Consulate of Japan in Vladivostok. Interesting, isn't it? Interesting what these people lost in Vladivostok. And I have a question for Russian Foreign Ministry and Russian leadership. Why they are allowing these people to just move around Russia this freely? If I'm not mistaken, NATO member states are restricting staff of Russian embassies, freedom of their movement, and on that background, how normal it is that these military attaches and the so-called diplomats of the NATO countries, Switzerland is of course not a NATO member. Formally, it acts as neutral, but in reality, Switzerland is of course part of anti-Russian coalition anyway. So why diplomats and the military attaché from these hostile countries were moving around freely and went to Vladivostok? What the hell, man? Really, what the hell? I don't know, but this is not normal. This is clearly not normal, especially nowadays. This is just not normal, and in my personal opinion, Russian side should take action and restrict movement of the staff of the hostile embassies of their hostile states. That's what done against Russian diplomats in these hostile states, and Russia should retaliate in the same manner, or maybe even should go a little further than that and cut diplomatic ties with these hostile nations. That will also make all the sense, because as I mentioned a few days ago, with whom your diplomats in these hostile states gonna talk to, when a political class in those states almost 100% is Russophobe and extremist? With whom your diplomats gonna talk there, and about what? Anyways, I mean, I guess it's interesting news that these representatives of the hostile states were moving around Russia and went to Vladivostok into the General Consulate of the Japan. Interesting. Also, Interfax News is reporting, by the way, that government of France, under pressure from other Western states, from London, first of all, change its mind and will no longer invite Russia to participate in the events in commemoration of the 80th anniversary of their Normandy landing. Earlier, there was reports in French media and all the other media outlets worldwide reported about decision of the French government to invite Russia also, but London get very upset. Some other countries in Europe and North America also, and that's a result. That's how independent French leadership is, by the way. That's a pure example, isn't it? By whom Fifth Republic is run? By puppets of the London and the Washington. That's all is. Okay, Russian delegation will not participate in this events, and okay, collective West can ignore as much as they like history and can forget that it was Soviet Union that played decisive role to defeat Nazi Germany. Not to France, not to UK, not the US. It was Soviet Union that played decisive role to defeat Nazi Germany. And I remind you, friends, that this Normandy landing happened once Western ruling class realized at the time that Soviet Union was smashing Nazi forces. And when it became clear that Soviet Union will destroy Nazi Germany 100%. And that's when US and UK get engaged and they open this second front. Only then. They were waiting for years. They were waiting for years before they opened this second front. They didn't do it in 41. They didn't do it in 42, 43. What the hell? And they are now acting, current political elite in the West is acting like it's France that defeated Nazi Germany. France that were basically surrendered in 40 days. They are acting now as if UK defeated Nazi Germany. Country that barely managed to defend itself from Luftwaffe. And what about US, man? What US did to defeat Nazi Germany? In 41, 42, 43, nothing. Anyways, man. Anyways, at this point, I don't really care what Western ruling class, Western ruling elites is doing. You know, RT is reporting that EU state warns about crazy NATO ideas. So NATO is backing itself into a corner by stirring up anti-Russian war hysteria. Hungarian Foreign Minister Peter Szijjártó told journalists on Thursday. The psychosis is making Western leaders adopt increasingly crazy ideas that could lead to grave consequences. He warned ahead of upcoming internal meeting of the NATO foreign ministers. The event on Friday is likely to only lead to further escalation. The nation's top diplomat warned, adding that it could create an extremely dangerous situation, and that meeting of foreign ministers of the NATO will take place today. Today is Friday, isn't it? So, and then quote, by the way, European colleagues have plunged into an ever deeper pit of war psychosis. And I believe that the presence of the Americans and the British will only stimulate this hysterical state. Szijjártó is on fire, by the way. I mean, one of the top diplomats, I will say, in this world. Young politician, by the way, but he clearly gained respect worldwide, I will say. So yes, this is a statement from Szijjártó, and it's hard to disagree with him. I mean, everything he says, every single sentence is 100%. But yet again, what you gonna do when the vast majority of the collective West is run by morons and the imbeciles, puppets basically of the true rulers of the Western world. Whoever those true rulers are, man, I don't know, Rothschilds, Rockefellers, Morgans, or Bachs and Marx, and who cares, man? Whoever those real rulers of the West are, they have really crazy people as a puppets in the governments of the majority of the collective West, and therefore these same people in a few countries in the collective West that are in charge, these same people are unable to influence anything, really. That's objective reality. I mean, take a look at the Hungary, by the way. Leadership of Hungary, time after time, is warning their fellow Europeans that they should be more careful, they should act more adequately, and not act as some extremists, but no one is listening, unfortunately. No one is listening in the collective West. Anyways, let's continue. And RIA Novosti's report that China, by the way, refused to participate in this so-called peace conference that will take place in Switzerland. That was expected. I'm quite sure Chinese diplomats are busy enough not to spend time on some clown show that conference is gonna be. And I'm quite sure majority of this world, by the way, will ignore this so-called summit in Switzerland, or if some countries will send outside of the collective West, will send some delegations, some second, third tier delegations, and that's it. I guess that's what is gonna be. No one cares, by the way, about Zelensky's ideas, Zelensky's crazy ideas, Zelensky's peace formula, or this geopolitical game of the collective Western ruling class, because everyone understands Switzerland is a part of anti-Russian coalition, and all the decision-making process in Switzerland is based on interests of the true ruling class of the West. That's all. Switzerland is no longer neutral state and never ever will be seen as a neutral state by the world. RT's report that Israeli war cabinet member demands early elections. Okay, member of the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's war cabinet has submitted a bill calling for early election. Netanyahu's party described the bill as a capitulation to Hamas. The bill was submitted on Thursday by Israel's National Unity Party, a bloc composed of the center-right Blue and White Party, led by Benny Gantz, and a number of independent lawmakers. The party said that Gantz insisted on holding election before the first anniversary of Hamas attack on Israel this October. And by the way, I'm no expert in internal politics of Israel, but I trust Max Blumenthal from Grey Zone. And just yesterday, I believe, he was on Judge Napolitano's show. And even earlier than that, when he was on this show, by the way, and on Judge Napolitano's channel, and also in the Grey Zone itself, Max Blumenthal has said quite a number of times that unfortunately in the political establishment of Israel, there is no forces, no political groups that really want to seek solutions. They are all of them are war hawks, and Benny Gantz is no any better than Netanyahu. And also, as a defense minister at the time, also was engaged in horrible policies of the IDF and the Israeli government, and therefore it does really not make any difference. It's Netanyahu is in charge, Benny Gantz is in charge, or someone else. Will be elections today or tomorrow or in 2 years' time. Unfortunately, vast majority of society in Israel is also radicalized, according to studies that we see. And therefore, even if there will be elections conducted, most likely, new cabinet in Israel, new government in Israel will be no lesser aggressive than current one. And probably, even if Benny Gantz and his party will leave coalition, probably Netanyahu will still manage to maintain his power, maintain post of prime minister, by creating alliances with even more extremist groups in Israel that have representatives in the parliament. So I don't know, man. I don't know what gonna happen to Israeli government to start act adequately. I don't know. Anyways, by the way, let's continue. And RT is reporting that U.S. court convicts Trump in all charges, by the way, some 34 charges. So former U.S. president and current presidential candidate Donald Trump has been found guilty of falsifying business records to influence the 2016 election in a case related to alleged hush money payment to porn actress Stormy Daniels. Some crazy story, by the way, crazy story. And whatever the case, we all know that if Trump was not politician, if he didn't ever enter this political landscape, none of these charges will be brought against him. None of these investigations, nothing will happen to him. He will continue to be celebrity TV star with his show Apprentice, or maybe with some other show. He will be welcome always everywhere and that kind of stuff. But because he entered politics, entire system, by the way, in US system, state system, judiciary system, justice ministry, FBI, CIA, everything is used against him, against forces that are behind him, because of course he is not running alone. There are some shadow force that is using Trump as a front runner, and that's U.S. democracy for you, by the way. That's a U.S. style democracy, and Washington is giving lessons or tries to lecture other countries how to act, when U.S. itself is basically prosecuting political opposition, when current government in U.S. is politically motivated and are conducting political prosecution. That's what it is, by the way. I am not saying Trump is good or bad. I don't really care, by the way. I just don't care. I'm not U.S. citizen, so why should I care, really? But especially now, when, according to some reports, Trump was threatening to strike Moscow and that kind of stuff. I mean, really? Are you that crazy? Or maybe that was a false account from Washington Post. But whatever the case, you might be a supporter of Trump or you may oppose him, but it is clear that state institutions have been weaponized by Biden's administration and used to take out Trump. That's just too obvious for everybody, I guess. And by the way, as far as I understand, he is not gonna end up in jail right now. There will be appeal, and before all the hearings and stuff, probably presidential elections will happen. And if he will win that elections, probably he will pardon himself, and that's gonna be it. Let's continue. And by the way, Prime Minister of Slovakia is getting better. Health of Prime Minister of Slovakia. He was also, of course, we all know that he was shot by extremist, pro-Ukrainian extremist recently, and he was in a hospital for like 2 weeks already, isn't it? And his health is getting better and better, and medics in Banska Bystrica, that's a city in Slovakia, made decision to allow him to move to his house and continue recovery in house under medical attention, of course. So, well, it's good, by the way. It's good that Fico is recovering fast, and it is interesting. What kind of political steps Roberto Fico will make once he will go back to office. Will he break after this assassination attempt, or will he become even more principled on the topics that Brussels and Western ruling class were upset on him? Anyways, let's continue. RT is reporting that the US is about to send migrants to Europe, according to CBS. That's a quite interesting news, isn't it? As if in Europe there is not enough migrants, and US gonna send some more. Okay. Let's go through this news. It's interesting. So some migrants applying for asylum at the US outposts in Latin America may be sent to Italy or Greece instead, CBS News reported on Thursday, citing anonymous sources and documents from the US Department of the Homeland Security. Washington set up safe mobility offices, SMO, in Colombia, Costa Rica, Ecuador, and Guatemala last year with the idea to reduce illegal border crossings by letting people apply to immigrate legally. Arrangements have already been made with Spain and Canada to take some of these migrants. Greece and Italy would likely accept roughly 500 or fewer migrants each under the new arrangements, which have not yet been officially announced, one source told CBS. A State Department spokesman told the outlet that we are in a diplomatic discussion with other countries about joining this initiative to expand lawful pathways for resettlement, but have no additional information to share at this time. And by the way, it may start with 500, but very soon it will become 500,000 probably, or 1,500,000. Who knows? Western ruling class with their inadequate policies worldwide destroys so many countries, by the way. So many countries that, of course, millions and millions and millions of people worldwide are seeking now refuge to the Western countries, wealth of which largely are based on destruction of these homelands of these poor people that are, moving now towards US, Canada, EU member states. So it is what it is, man. It is what it is. But influence of US, isn't it? That they're gonna force. They already forced Canada and Spain to accept refugees, and they are, of course, they're gonna force Canada, Greece, and Italy also to receive some refugees instead of US. Vzglyad newspaper is reporting that President of Estonia, by the way, signed a law about confiscation of the Russian assets in Estonia, and I guess this quasi-state this failed state that is run by Nazis and the fascists will be first one with that legalizes stealing of the Russian assets. Okay, I don't know what kind of assets Russia had in Estonia, but information itself, that they are authorizing stealing of Russian assets is quite interesting. I guess more countries, more EU member states will follow. First Baltic states, then probably Poland, because they're usually acting similarly together. And well, if I was a Polish citizen, it would be quite insulting that my government is quite often acting in the very same way that these Nazis and the fascists in Baltics, in leadership of Baltic states. Polish society may have some difficult relationships with Russia due to some history and propaganda of the Western ruling class try very hard, by the way, to create this divide between Russia and Poland. But still, by the way, I will never call Poland a Nazi state. Never. Polish people fought against Nazis bravely, and Poland, by the way, fight against Nazi Germany longer than France. Many people may not know this, but Poland fought against Nazi Germany longer than France did. Germany was able, Poland capitulated after 6 weeks, I believe, of Nazi invasion, while France capitulated in 4 weeks. And even though I have no respect towards political elite of the Poland, they are extreme Russophobes, crazies. I am telling you, man, if I was Polish citizen, I will find it extremely disturbing that my government is quite often associated with this Nazi and fascist leadership of the Baltic states and acting in similar ways. It is disturbing, man. Poland clearly deserves much better leadership that they have right now, man. But it is what it is, man. Just mark my words. After Estonia, probably Lithuania and Latvia will adjust similar laws, and then next gonna be Poland. Just let's wait and see, man. RT is reporting that a major global refiner to pay for Russian oil in rubles, in Russian currency, which is quite interesting. India's largest private corporation, Reliance Industries, and the Russian company Rosneft have signed a 1-year contract for monthly supplies of up to 3 million barrels of oil that will be paid for in rubles. Reuters reported on Tuesday, citing sources familiar with the issues. So, well, great news, by the way, great news. Despite the Western pressure and threats towards India, well, New Delhi is, at least for now, withstanding this pressure, and Indian companies are still able to do business with the Russian counterparts, which is great, by the way. And well, if more Indian companies will pay for Russian goods in rubles, even better, because of course it will strengthen Russian currency. So yes, why not? And simultaneously, Russia will, probably Russia will pay for Indian goods in Indian rupees, which will make Indian rupee also stronger and more attractive for other countries also. So it's going to be mutually beneficial, of course, if trade will take place in national currencies. Also, RBK is reporting that almost 80% of Russian companies, by the way, raised the wages in this year. Already, by the way, in 2024, which is quite interesting, isn't it? I guess Western ruling class was expecting something completely different when they start this sanctions war against Russia. Probably they were hoping that in a month or 2 months' time, they're gonna demolish Russian economy and chaos gonna erupt, and and then they gonna overtake, over the Russia and establish their puppet regime here, and basically run the show and rob Russian society and Russia. But things did not turn out as they were wishing, isn't it? As they were hoping for. And after more than 2 years of this sanctions wars, and after over 20,000 sanctions on Russia, economy here is doing good enough so that almost 80% of the businesses, by the way, are already increased their wages this year. And this is constant process, by the way. I mean, last year before. So it's good. It's all good. Quite an indicator about the strength of their economy and situation that Russian economy is in right now, which is maybe not ideal, but fact itself that Russian economy is still withstanding this pressure and still managing to grow is something to be noticed. And I will end this first part of today's update on this news that Russia, according to this report of RIA Novosti, Russia is become fourth economy in this world by purchasing power parity index, and this was reported, by the way, by World Bank. World Bank, no way pro-Russian organization. It's run by the collective West, by Western ruling class, but still, World Bank was forced to acknowledge that Russia become world's fourth economy in terms of purchasing power parity in 2021, by the way. Once they analyze all the data, they come up with this, that Russia became fourth economy in 2021 and maintain its position through these years, including in last 2 years when last 2-3 years when Western ruling class start imposing this unbelievable number of sanctions on Russia. So quite interesting news, isn't it? Quite interesting news. And by the way, many experts are thinking that PPP index, purchasing power parity index, is much more just than GDP index. Anyways, before these coolers get completely crazy on the notebook, I will end this update. And relatively long video, but hopefully you will find it informative, interesting, and useful. And if so, please click that like button and leave some commentary just about anything, any topic will do. More likes and comments are only way we can influence algorithm to reach wider audience. And for very same reason, if you can, please share information about my channels with your friends through internet or in real life. That will be, of course, very helpful. And finally, if you like this channel, if you find it interesting, and if you think this channel deserves to exist in this field of news and political commentary, please consider to support my work with small donations through PayPal, Boosty, or by subscribing to my Patreon page. All the links under this video in the description box and in the pinned comment. This is it for now. Have a great day and take care.